So, how I use my mind daily after doing 2,300 plus hours of meditation. So, just a quick backstory around me. Used to live with semi or enlightened, whatever you want to call it, Buddhist nun for a year and a half to 2 years. She taught me just the Dharma, how to meditate, as well as all of the correct literature in order to use my mind properly. So I also have the conscious mind on lock as well. And during this time, I was already doing meditations before this, but during this time I was expected to sit for at least 90 minutes a day, up to 3 hours a day, and then we did retreats where I'd be doing 10 hours or more of meditation every single day. Her name was Sister Kante Kema. And one of the most interesting things that it taught me, the insights and stuff, was the fact that you have so much space internally to react to things, or respond to things rather. So before this, even when I'd already done a few hundred hours of meditation before I met this lady and really started to take it seriously, I kind of understood this a little bit, but not to the same extent. And what was this? It was basically that when something comes up inside of you, when a storyline comes up inside of you, when a narrative comes up inside of you, you don't have to react with the mind straight away. You don't have to react with your body straight away. There is a space which you can relax into, which only doing a certain kind of meditation practice can teach you. Now, the other thing that I used to do, which I don't do anymore, is I used to use the mind as a way to spiritually bypass a lot of my problems. This is something which is going to be really, really key for those of you who are already keen meditators. And what that is, or what it means is, so there's a lot of misconceptions about what meditation actually is. And if people just think it's about having a calm mind and relaxing and all that kind of stuff. All this stuff is great and it's great benefits. But if you're doing a proper practice or a true practice, if you want to call it that way, it's about investigating the phenomena of the mind and seeing how we are creating our own suffering every moment of every single day. And if you can see that with true wisdom, with true compassion, then you can liberate yourself from suffering. Now, if I was feeling a bad emotion, or an emotion that I labeled as bad, there's no inherently bad emotions, then I would use this knowledge or this wisdom that I'd gained, basically, and I would say, okay, I don't have to feel that, because I can see that this is ultimately me just causing myself suffering, and I can see ultimately how I am creating a storyline of something which is bad, and I can just rise above it. So it's not even necessarily suppressing, it's spiritual bypassing. I'm transcending it, but I'm not including it, right? Now, the problem with this is that there is still emotions and thoughts coming up inside of you, and no matter how much you meditate, no matter how much you sit, and this, even if you become fully enlightened, you're never going to get out of that. So by just trying to supersede and just liberate everything or transcend everything, what happens is you're actually suppressing or repressing the parts of you or the aspects of you that actually are experiencing these things, which means over time you develop a very lopsided personality and somebody who isn't really in touch with their own body, mind, thoughts, all that kind of stuff. So how I use it differently now is we've incorporated shadow work. So there's psychotherapy-based frameworks, shadow work-based frameworks, hypnotherapy, NLP, all of these different models of therapy. There's client-based therapy from Carl Rogers, all that kind of stuff. And that's that first, you do not want to use your meditational practice in isolation ever, because otherwise that would just cause so many problems in the long run. Like for me, it would cause me to not look at certain problems or certain emotions because I could just feel good around them. But what that would mean is that I would get to a certain point and suddenly I wouldn't have, when I would have to deal with something because it just came up so vigorously, because I didn't nip it in the bud proverbially. Now this thing was much, much stronger, and I had to deal with it then and there in a way where I could have just dealt with it much, much sooner, right? So, how do I use it now? Well, you lead with shadow work first. You use all the awareness you get with whatever practice that you're doing, whatever spiritual practice you get, which gives you that kind of space and ability to look at yourself in a way which is meta. Meta means big picture, right? And with that, then you do the investigation work. Then you go deep into whatever your shadow work is. If you don't have a shadow work, a comprehensive guide, then I have my free shadow work guide, most practical guide to do shadow work on the internet. It's, like I said, it's free. It's in the comment below. It's in the description blocks below. Just go ahead and download it. It's a 3-hour masterclass, which I do with some of my one-on-one clients. And if you've never done shadow work before, not only does it give you a really comprehensive look at how shadows are formed, created, and sustained, it also gives you a real step-by-step game plan of how to actually do the sessions on yourself, by yourself, without having somebody there as best as you can. And if you've never done it before, there's a 4-week game plan which gets you from not doing any kind of internal shadow work, if you're completely new, to being able to do it very competently by yourself. So go ahead and download that. But you're using all of the stuff that you developed in this time of meditation. You're using all of the space that it creates, all of the awareness, the ability to look beyond yourself. You're using all of that so you don't get pulled into triggers and shadows when they come up, but instead of using that as a way to still feel good despite the trigger coming up and still feel good despite there being a shadow, instead what you're doing is you are using that to give you some kind of protection or distance, ability to look at the shadow. Sometimes shadows are really confronting, so you need some of that space to then go in and question it, to wrestle with the consciousness, so to speak, with the aliveness that is in shadow. Because even though it's something which might be coming from something which, whatever you want to call it, trauma or something like that, it still comes from an intense amount of aliveness and consciousness. And that's something that's beautiful to work with. However, only when it's not so confronting that we can't do anything about it, basically. So that's how I use my mind. Instead of just self-liberating and transcending everything that comes up, I allow that perspective to be there, and then from there I do the work. I go into it from that perspective, holding both perspectives at once. And this took my shadow work game from when I was able to integrate this lesson from something which was still useful but kind of only stuck at the mental processes aware, to going right to the core wound and getting transformational change.